In the Philippine jungle, the so-called roads are mostly just sort of tracks. Serious accidents happen all the time. But for the farmers of the fertile high plateau, the Halsema Highway is the only possible route to deliver their goods in the valley. Whoever drives here must forget about fear. The Halsema Highway is situated in the northern Philippines on the main island Luzon. The road is 166 kilometers long and runs through the high mountains up to an altitude of 3,000 meters. Albert Killey earns his living by driving a jeepney. He calls his passengers into his taxi by beeping the horn. Twice a day, Albert has a fixed tour. From Sagada, high up in the mountains down to the valley, it takes just short of an hour. Every tour is an adventure. Up here in the high mountains, there is frequent fog and heavy rainfall.
We are used to these weather conditions. But it's very difficult for visitors to drive here. There's a lot of heavy rainfall and the fog is especially treacherous.
Albert's jeepney is 20 years old and compared to local standards, relatively new. The vehicle is a replica of an American military truck. You'll find these jeepneys all across the Philippines. They are the main means of local transport.
It's tiring if you have to drive every day. If you're lucky, you have a fast driver. But some of them drive so slowly, it's a time killer.
The locals expect the driver to drive fast. Safety comes second.
Then in Europe, it's quite crazy, you know. But it was fine. We were safe, so.
You shouldn't be afraid to get on these old vehicles. The locals earn very little money, and so the ride to the next town shouldn't cost more than a few cents. Albert's jeepney will be used until it falls apart. The bad weather disappears just as suddenly as it arrived. Compared to Philippine standards, the climate in the mountains is extraordinarily chilly. Temperatures only very seldom rise above 25 degrees. Whoever wants to escape from the heat spends his holidays in Sagada, where it's cooler. Dennis Bing Eel lives on the outskirts of Sagada. He's a bus driver.
Before the journey begins, we have to check the tires, the screws, and the air pressure. You can tell by the sound whether they hold enough pressure. If you don't have a puncture, you're all set for the trip on the Halsema Highway.
Dennis is responsible for 50 passengers. Before each trip, he services the bus, which includes checking the brake fluid, as the Halsema Highway is steep. You may run into an obstacle behind every curve. Dennis can tell just by hearing its sound whether the engine is running well.
As long as the engine is looked after well enough and the tires are new, even an old car will manage the trip. The older your vehicle is, the more you need to look after it in order to safely make the journey on the highway.
On this morning, jeepney driver Albert is bringing a few tourists up the mountains. Albert loves these extra tours. They are the icing on the cake for him.
When I'm driving, I get to know different people and make new friends. I like that. It makes driving so much fun. And sometimes I'm lucky and someone hires me for a longer trip.
The art student Rocky and his friends have taken their seats on the roof. They are heading for Kalinga, where a legendary tattoo artist lives.
It's very painful, and afterwards your skin is very sensitive. You have to be very careful with your arm for a few months. Look, that's a unique design from this region. And what about you? Are you getting a tattoo?
Kalinga is an isolated and remote village in the mountains. To get there, you must travel a track that branches off Halsema Highway for the last kilometers. Albert picks up a couple of students on his way. They are happy to get a ride. A few bends further up, Albert's jeepney comes to a halt. This is where the road ends.
Bye, bye, bye.
Rocky and his friends have to walk up the mountain the last few kilometers. Kalinga is a retreat for some of the Philippine Aboriginal natives. Their culture always has been rather warlike. The tattoos were supposed to deter enemies. Phang Od is 96 years old. Her legendary reputation as the oldest living tattoo artist reaches far beyond her home village.
Yes, I'm in my 90s. I still tattoo because we need the money. Otherwise, we wouldn't have enough to eat. We don't have any paddy fields. I have no choice. If no one supports me, I'll have to keep on tattooing.
Phang Od just needs a bamboo cane, a needle, and some coal.
Back in the old days, you used to get a tattoo like this if you went to war. You'd get one if you killed someone too. That's how our ancestors did it. Tattoos were mainly connected to warfare.
For Rocky, this is both a test of courage and a desire to closely experience the traditions. As long as there is no road leading up to Kalinga, this place will remain remote. So for another while, the traditions will be preserved. Back in Sagada, Dennis and his cross-country bus is already waiting for passengers. Every hour, the buses drive from Sagada all the way along the Halsema Highway to the city of Baguio, almost 150 kilometers away. It takes them 7 to 8 hours. Bus driver Dennis drives along the Halsema Highway every day.
You know what? I like the Halsema. It's my home.
For the inhabitants of the mountains, the bus is the cheapest way to cover greater distances, no matter whether they need to get to the nearest city or even to Manila. Dennis has been working as a bus driver for 25 years. He never takes a break. Only if the bus breaks down would he take a day off. He only gets paid if he drives. The route leads from Sagada down to the river valley of the Chico River. From there, it leads on through the craggy mountains to Buguyas. In the meantime, the Halsema Highway has been asphalted in most parts, but up here, coming down from Sagada, the road still looks the same as decades ago, narrow, bumpy, and dusty. There used to be hardly any hard shoulders. A trip to Baguio would often take more than 10 hours. Sandy is 21 and works as a bus conductor. He sells the tickets on the bus. A ride to Baguio costs 220 pesos, which is not even 4 euros. For most of the locals, it's half a day's wage. The bus slowly struggles down the road. There are an endless amount of roadworks on the way downhill. The construction workers need to watch out for the many buses and trucks. They are a permanent threat. There are hardly any machines in use at the roadworks. Whatever the mixer spits out will be spread out on the road surface by the workers' shovels. Hard physical labor.
If we get tired, we slow down. But if we have good food, it means we're stronger. If we have proper food, for example beef, we're happy and strong enough to even carry bigger stones and build walls.
Whoever works here has to learn to make the most of it. Sometimes there'll be no cement for a whole day, which means sitting around all day and waiting. But as they say, somehow it always works out. The many roadworks on the Halsema Highway have been obstructing the traffic for many years now. The drivers have learned to be patient. They hope that one day there will be a paved road leading down the mountain. Untiringly, Dennis battles his way down the road every day anew.
Back when the whole highway was like this, you used to have only one lane and it was damn slippery. Just one false move, one braking error. If you were at a dangerous spot, you'd fall down the canyon.
During the rainy season, typhoons and huge masses of water often lead to landslides and block the road. At the dangerous spots, the workers build supporting walls into the mountain to stop the slopes from sliding. In some places, the street is a construction site, a road, and the children's way to school, all at the same time. When Dennis has finally passed the last major roadworks with his bus, he arrives at a well-paved section of the Halsema Highway. Down in the valley, the road follows the course of the Chico River for a few kilometers. During the rainy season, it rises and turns into a torrent. It takes courage and intuition to master the bridge across the Chico. For years, it's been a patchwork bridge made of old logs and planks. The same morning, Albert is driving his taxi along the Chico River too. He is driving a very special tour, young musicians and dancers. Albert is taking them from their high school to a performance at the district town of Bontak. If the jeepney is full, the remaining passengers have to sit on the roof. Bontak lies at only 800 meters altitude. The temperatures down here are much higher and are favorable for the traditional cultivation of rice. But Bontak is mainly a business and administration city, and so most of Albert's tours on the Halsema go there. The rest of the passengers had to get off at the outskirts of Bontak. In the city, passengers are not allowed on the roof, but making music is always allowed. The traditional culture and the tribal rituals are still very much alive here. Every school often has various groups who perform dances on the city squares.
The elders, which are called warriors, are our ancestors and models. Back then, everyone went out hunting for boars, deer, or water buffaloes. They were warriors and went out hunting in the mountains.
After the tour is before the tour. Albert has 4 kids. His wife earns some extra money by running a little shop, but that is just about enough to sustain the family.
I need to always be ready to drive. When I've reached my destination, I go looking for customers here in the city. I take a look around, talk to people. That's the best I can do. Maybe I find a few tourists, make some extra money. I only have to be prepared, then it'll work.
And so, Albert has to try his luck on the Halsema Highway every day anew. The highway is named after its constructor, the American engineer Eusebius Halsema. It was first designed as a footpath in the 20s of the last century. For the people living here, the Halsema is a blessing and a curse at the same time. It helps develop the region, but also claims many lives. Up until today, it is considered to be one of the most dangerous roads in the world due to its bad condition. For Dennis and his passengers, the Halsema is a true challenge every single time.
I think by now I know every single turn on the Halsema. With the amount of time I spent driving it, the street has engraved itself into my memory. I know the slippery parts, the tricky slopes, and the sections where the rocks come down. Many horrible accidents have claimed lives here, and cars have fallen into the abyss. This section might be the worst. If you apply the brakes carelessly, you start skidding immediately.
The passengers are aware of the dangers too.
This section of the street has so many bends. Horrible. It's so high up it scares me. I'm already exhausted, and it's better if I just keep my mouth shut.
Everyone here has heard stories of horrible accidents.
There are many reasons why so many accidents happen.
Mechanical problem, negative fog,
Most of them happen because of technical problems with the old cars.
typhoon,
But the weather also plays a role.
landslide.
There's dense fog, rain, and worst of all, typhoons and landslides.
Pasamak dito Cordillera.
That's the way things happen here on the Halsema.
Kaduan, pasamak.
This road has claimed many lives.
But the Halsema also offers economical opportunities. A dozen small dealers make money in this village with the passing traffic. More than 50 buses stop here every day.
So here we have nuts with the popular adobo flavor. We buy it per kilo in the city and then put it in small bags. This is garlic flavored and this is sweet peanut.
Business goes especially well on the public holidays. That's when everyone working in the big cities drives back to their families in the mountains. After taking a short break, Dennis continues to force his bus along the winding road. The Halsema Highway also attracts tourists. Bikers from the capital city appreciate the winding ride on the legendary highway. For a week, this group is traveling the mountains with their historic British military motorcycles. Last night was a trial of courage for the motorcycle club from Manila. They had to endure continuous rainfall with poor visibility for several hundred kilometers.
This road is not a joke. Actually, it is my first time here, and I'm lucky enough to have these guys with me.
The ride last night was fun. Adrenaline, thrills. You cannot even see the road because of the fogs, and it's raining, and we are very, very cold. And it's nice. Landslide.
Basically, it's dangerous, actually. We're not saying it's a good thing to do.
After last night's wild ride, the bikers are taking it easy today on their winding tour, leading ever deeper into the remote mountains of the high plateau. In the meantime, Dennis has already covered half the distance of the Halsema Highway. He has arrived at the Philippine Salad Bowl. This is where all the vegetables for the region and the capital city, Manila, are grown. The Halsema provides the farmers with everything they need for agriculture. Off the highway, there are still almost only wild tracks, though. Romeo Cagayan is a farmer. In order to reach his field, which is 3 kilometers away, he must endure a good shaking. A strain for man and material.
When we arrive home after this stretch, we can still feel the road. Your hips are hurting. Your body's tired. This path really wears you down. You should have your wife giving you a massage afterwards.
Today, Romeo and his helpers are harvesting radish and cabbage. Afterwards, he has to drive the harvest directly to the central market at the end of the highway. Prices are higher if he sells fresh from the field. His helpers have already started working. There are no reapers. Everything is done by hand. The radish is washed and packaged already on the field. The wholesalers expect it that way. Romeo's job as a farmer has changed considerably over the past years. The highway has become much more important for him.
I used to only be a farmer. When I bought a truck, I suddenly had two professions, farmer and driver. Because I delivered vegetables for everyone. I have employees that do the planting for me because I'm mostly driving now.
Julius Kuryab is a sales representative for a seed company. There is strong competition, and so he visits the farmers in the fields to find out what they need. On these narrow paths, it's much quicker to take the motorbike. This way, he can visit up to half a dozen clients a day.
How are you?
Hi.
I'm Julius from Seedworks. Since you're growing carrots, I brought some seeds for you to try out.
This way, Romeo is able to order his seeds right in the middle of his field.
It's good for business to come here by motorcycle, and we're used to these kinds of roads. It's normal for us, even if it's just a bumpy track. We've learned to live with it.
Romeo and his men must hurry. If they want the goods to be on the market today, they have only a few hours left. If Romeo arrives too late, he has to wait until the next day, a great financial loss because the price will have gone down. Meanwhile, Dennis is still driving his bus through the salad bowl. He and his passengers have already made it halfway. Time for lunch break. The passengers leave the bus somewhat stiff-legged after the long, winding journey. They have 20 minutes to move around and quickly take a bite of something. Dennis has been loyal to the Morning Star restaurant for 25 years now, ever since he started driving the Halsema. The lunch costs 100 pesos, almost 2 euros. For most people, it's a lot of money and not everyone can afford it. Dennis and his conductor Sandy enjoy free catering. After all, their buses bring customers.
We always eat here. We eat quickly so we can move on quickly and get home early.
Eat quickly, move on quickly, and drive quickly. They haven't yet made half the journey, and there are still many bends to come. A few kilometers further on. Again and again, severe accidents occur on the highway. Last year, a school bus with 15 students crashed and fell 100 meters into the canyon. 12 students died, the others were badly injured.
We have 2 patients.
This exercise is supposed to prepare paramedics for the many accidents.
All of us are paramedics from the region. We practice for emergencies as realistically as possible. These horrible things happen here, so we practice a lot to learn new techniques and get a feel for the situation and how serious the injuries are.
Farmer Romeo's house is in Buguyas, situated directly at the highway. From here, it's not far to the fields, and he can head off straight to the central market. As always, his wife tells him to drive carefully. Too much has happened, and she knows that Romeo is in a hurry to be at the market on time. From Buguyas, which is halfway down the highway, it takes 3 to 4 hours to reach the city of Baguio with its 500,000 inhabitants. Romeo has been driving the highway for more than 20 years, rain or shine. Even a bad typhoon couldn't stop him a couple of years ago. Once he had a brake failure, and he just about managed to save his truck by driving into a wall. Romeo knows the old cars are always good for a surprise.
What happened? Broken?
No. The filter was filled with dirt, so I must have to repair. Oh, this is we'll fix it there up. No? Oh.
Romeo is not only a farmer and a driver, but also a car mechanic by now. He owns several old trucks, and one of them could always break down.
Okay. Second. Chamba phải lang. Yeah. Yeps. Yeps. Gagawin mo.
What can you do?
Ang gawin mo yan mag-isa.
You have to watch out for yourself,
Repair gabi man o.
even in the middle of the night. Do not rely on others when it comes to fixing your own truck.
Not such a big deal. The air filter is dirty, and Romeo can clean it himself. It doesn't even take half an hour to repair the damage.
Oh.
Things like these happen often here. We're prepared. But only if you fix it immediately you can save your goods. I need to be at the central market on time, or else my vegetables will go bad.
So now Romeo will drive even faster in order to not have to queue up until the next morning and not to have to sleep over at the central market. Everywhere along the highway, the farmers and their families have settled between the canyon and the road. Most of them own only small fields, which are in fact illegal, but the authorities let them be. Three years ago, a typhoon dragged a few houses down into the canyon. In the meantime, the inhabitants have rebuilt them. They want to stay on in spite of the danger, since they have no alternative. Vilma and Caprio Kismin are harvesting. They have grown their sayote fruits directly into the steep slope. The selling of the fruits is their sole income.
We've decided to live right at the Halsema because it's more practical. That way we can harvest the fruits and bring them straight to the market.
They have to carry their meager harvest up the mountain on foot. During the rainy season, they can hardly set foot on their field without risking falling down the wet slope. A sack of these pumpkin-like fruits brings them 300 pesetas, a bit more than €5.
I wish there was somebody there to help us. Then we would immediately leave this place. Because it's really very, very dangerous. But this is how we make a living.
We worry a lot about the cars. We try to bring and pick up our children from school. The traffic is scary. The street is really dangerous, and there are many accidents. I'm very worried.
Even if he's in a great hurry, Romeo stops the truck to visit them.
Hi, how are you? Sorry for being so late, but I had a breakdown and had to clean the filter. Let's carry your fruit onto the truck.
Romeo knows how hard it is for the family and tries to help them by taking their fruit to the market. It always tends to get foggy in the afternoon. During the day, the tropical sun warms the humid air. It rises. In the afternoon, it condenses to fog in the mountains, and it starts to rain. Within a short period of time, the highway then turns into a dangerously slippery track. Sometimes there is a change in the weather from one mountain to the next. Dennis ended up right in the middle of this dense fog.
We know our Halsema. It gets foggy every afternoon. Sometimes it's so bad that you can't see the road anymore. You have to be very careful to stay on the road.
Farmer Romeo was lucky. He reached the valley before the fog did.
The Halsema is dangerous, but at least it doesn't hurt as much. The bumpy tracks we usually travel hurt so much you can't even sleep at night. The Halsema has been paved almost everywhere now, which makes it a bit more comfortable.
In the end, Romeo did make it. He arrived in the city on time. And he catches a stand with the cooperative from his village. It organizes the sale of vegetables for its local farmers. Romeo is allowed to pass the queue, but he too has spent whole nights queuing up.
I'm very lucky. I didn't have to queue up and got in straight away. My cabbage will stay fresh.
The market is run by the state. Farmers from the whole region sell their products to the salesmen coming from the neighboring cities. Soon, a potential buyer for Romeo's harvest shows up.
You like my vegetables?
Let's see.
How much can you pay?
I'll give you 18 per kilo.
Come on, a bit more. I could sell it for more, you know?
It doesn't work that way, brother.
Okay.
The customer buys the whole load for 18 pesos a kilo, 35 cents if converted to euros. And Romeo has to wrap every single cabbage into newspaper twice and put them into sacks.
Great. I quickly sold my cabbage for a good price.
Now he just needs to get rid of his radish to make this a really good day. Baguio lies at 1,500 meters and is normally seen as a summer resort. But it's a fast-growing city, and so traffic is growing too. On some days, the smog and smut make it hard for the people to even breathe. Dennis has been steering his bus along the winding highway for more than 8 hours now.
I don't mind the driving. 7 to 8 hours are normal for me. If you give up too easily, you won't make money, and your family stays hungry.
The bus terminal in Baguio. This is where passengers from all over the country arrive. Dennis will spend the night here and sleep in his bus. Tomorrow, he'll be back in his living room, the Halsema Highway.
Okay. Parating na sa Baguio.
Come on, Sandy. Enough for today. Let's thank God for driving well and safe and without an accident.
The world's greatest mountain range, the Himalayas. Only few roads lead up this way. They are dangerous and unpredictable. Each journey is an adventure. Using heavy machinery, the clearing party advances meter by meter. It's mid-May, and the mountain villages in northern India have been cut off from the outside world for 7 months. The Manali-Leh highway lies hidden beneath a thick layer of snow. The men have to take extreme care, for they cannot see the steep inclines beneath the masses of snow. They clear the road as best they can. It won't be possible for a number of weeks to come. The first trucks will head into the Himalayas in June. Most carry goods from the capital, New Delhi. They've already been on the road for 2 days.
Hello.
During the summer months, Narendra Kumar Bott regularly makes the trip to Leh.
I'll be in Manali soon. I'm getting close. The weather's playing up. With luck, we should make Leh in 3 days. No, everything is fine for the rest. No problem. See you.
Each driver pulls in at the garage in Manali. Before Narendra ventures onto the mountain road with his truck, everything needs to be thoroughly checked one last time.
Give me that tool. You check the ropes.
Narendra is making this trip in convoy with his colleague Keher Singh. It's safer together. Keher Singh doesn't own his truck, he works for a haulage firm. Narendra, on the other hand, is his own boss. Narendra makes some final checks. His truck needs to be 100%, otherwise he'll be putting his life at risk. The men are in high spirits. They're not yet thinking about the trip ahead.
The road is like your wife. Impossible to understand. You never know what's going to happen next. The weather is unpredictable, and it can snow at any time. There are many high passes, and the air gets very thin.
Before he sets off, Narendra prays to the gods. They have to get him to his destination safely and give him strength to rise to the challenges ahead. The Manali-Leh Highway lies in the northernmost region of the Indian subcontinent. Stretching some 475 kilometers, it's the only road connecting the two towns, Manali in the Himachal Pradesh province and Leh in the Kashmir region. The passes are among the world's highest. Just beyond Manali, the road rises steeply to the first pass. In many places, it's flooded by meltwater. Narendra has to rely on his experience. Deep holes and sharp rocks take their toll on the tires and axles. Every year, water tears parts of the reinforcements down into the abyss. The next obstacle lurks a few kilometers ahead. The road has turned into a mud course. People all have their own reasons for fighting their way through this quagmire. They want to get into town for the first time in months, visit relatives, and some simply seek a few days' adventure in the mountains.
Because the road is so bad, accidents happen. When it's foggy, you can hardly see ahead. And there are landslides. When it rains, huge boulders come crashing down. Take care of our truck. Keep looking ahead. If we have to stop, we'll be stuck. It's too steep.
Ramesh is Narendra's student. He has to assist his boss and make sure that the truck gets past obstacles safely. Keher Singh and his assistants follow Narendra's truck. That may be easier than driving up front, but it still requires great concentration. The truckers maneuver their heavy loads along the very edge of the precipice. It's downhill for the next 300 meters, and they can only hope that nothing will come up the other way.
There are glaciers on either side. You have to inch your way along like a tightrope walker. And you can't rely on your engine. You never know whether it will cause trouble. That's what makes it so hard.
For Narendra and Kehar Singh, the journey has come to an indefinite halt. Nobody knows how long it will take, nor why the traffic has stopped moving. Each delay increases the pressure on the drivers. Clients are waiting for their goods, and the road to Leh is still long. Another reason why Narendra and Kehar Singh want to cross the pass quickly is the altitude. It's making them drowsy.
We're at around 13,000 feet now on the Lohtang Pass, and breathing here is difficult. When we're stuck in traffic, it's even worse. When the truck is moving, the altitude doesn't bother me so much. But when it's stationary, you become short of breath.
They'll be going nowhere until the road is cleared, as it has been buried beneath an avalanche of mud and rocks. For hours now, hundreds of people have been waiting for the digger to clear the road. Clearing parties are stationed at intervals. They're practicing shifting even the largest boulders to one side. The road has yet to be even half cleared. But nevertheless, the first vehicles attempt to make their way through the slippery mud. Narendra makes it. His truck is in good shape. Kehar Singh is in trouble. He needs more traction. His tires are worn and cannot find grip.
If you run into trouble with your truck out here, then you're all alone. There's nothing you can do. You just sit there and wait for an angel. There's no help on this road. No telephone, no hotel. The road is a disaster.
For a few hours, the trucks make good time. A dangerously narrow spot is being broadened. Large boulders just beyond a blind curve have made the road treacherous. Without heavy machinery at hand, the workers combine their strength to heave the rocks to one side. The traffic must flow. The workers fashion gravel by hand. They use it to fill holes and reinforce the road. Most of the men are young and come from India's poorest regions where there is no work. The road construction company has taken them on. Hassan Kumrul is a foreman and has worked on the high road for 19 years. Strategically, the Manali-Leh Highway is very important. Hassan's company works for the military. Pakistan, China and India all have claims on the Kashmir region, and India has thousands of troops stationed high up in the mountains. They need supplies, and therefore these men tirelessly perform their maintenance.
God always wins. It's out of our hands. Our wishes count for nothing here. Nature prevails. We don't have her under control. We construct walls, for instance. It's very hard work for many men. We use a lot of steel and cement, and yet the walls fail. The glaciers swallow everything in their path.
Narendra has spent half his life on the road. He knows all of India's main highways, and none is as demanding as the road from Manali to Leh.
When I'm in trouble because of this road, and it's closed for 8 to 10 days due to snow, and I get stuck, and when the army has to come out to bring food or even rescue us, then I think, why do I do this work? What is this occupation that I've chosen for myself? When the truck is moving, however, I'm happy. When it's rolling, I have great fun.
The 80-ton load means that Narendra cannot drive fast. He's not keen anyway on making the journey as quickly as possible to earn more money. He's seen too many trucks end up in the abyss. The two trucks reach the Lohtang. Prayer flags mark the pass's highest point. The trucks are parked up beside the road as dusk sets in. It's the first night. Since there are few restaurants or cafes along the route, the drivers cook themselves. Their cabin is kitchen and bedroom in one. If everything goes well, the man will reach Leh in 3 days. Keher Singh is well equipped. He ensures that he has enough supplies with him even if he breaks down. Help can be a long time coming. The nights are cold even in summer, and the days are often very hot. The drivers have no time for the landscape's unique beauty. They must concentrate on making quick and safe progress. If anything, nature is an obstacle to them. Deep gorges and raging rivers can only be crossed using military bridges. They can be built quickly, but rarely last more than a few months. Each time the snow melts, the water finds itself a new course. For 3 days now, another driver's truck has been stranded by the roadside. The men can't get the engine going. 2 mechanics have arrived. The truck belongs to Jaspir Singh. This isn't the first time he's been stuck on the Manali-Leh highway. And 2 years ago, he didn't have any mechanics to help him out of trouble. Jaspir was caught unawares by snow on the highest pass. His truck got stuck and its engine froze. Jaspir held out for almost a month. He was afraid that his cargo would be stolen. After the winter, he had to buy a new engine. This time he's getting off lightly. It seems that the repair work will be successful. The mechanics can at least get the truck moving again. Although this is costing Jaspir a lot of money, it's nothing compared to last time. His family faced financial ruin.
My father died because of this truck. He was so angry that it got stuck and that we were suffering its loss that he had a heart attack. Too many debts. We had no money left.
Narendra has a close relationship with the road.
It's like a temporary marriage. A 4-month marriage when I'm on this road. She no longer frightens me, though. I set out from New Delhi and the trip takes me between 7 and 10 days. It's like a marriage. I love this road and there's a lot I can forgive her.
The journey has hit yet more trouble. Narendra can feel what's wrong with his truck. He makes it to the next tire shop.
Hey friend, can you fix that tire?
Sure.
I think it's punctured.
Get the tire off. It's punctured. Can you patch it up? Or make yourself useful and undo the wheel nuts.
Check the others too.
Come on, get on with it. Get your people moving. There's work to do.
I hope he can fix it. Do you want him to check yours too?
Yes.
It's high season for the tire men, as tires take the hardest beating. They have to deal with razor-sharp edges and pointed rocks. Narendra hopes that the tire can be saved. Profits are already lean as it is. The inner tube is fixed, but how long will it last? The outer tire, however, is worse off. A stone has become lodged and ripped it. Narendra will need a new one for the next trip.
The tire has had it. It'll cost me at least 170 euros. Curse this damn road. I'm not coming back. I'm never going to drive again.
The trucks reach a plateau. It's a good opportunity for a driving lesson. It's safe here.
You have to stay sharp, young lad. The first thing to watch on the Manali-Leh Highway is your engine temperature.
Ramesh wants to drive a truck too one day, perhaps even his own. He dreams of overcoming the Manali-Leh Highway sitting in the driver's seat. He can learn a lot from Narendra about the transport industry and about the art of driving.
Come closer. When you sit here, you have to be submissive and pray to the gods.
We're going to hit sand. What should I do?
You have to steer carefully in sand, and you should change down into first gear. Yes, that's it, exactly. The most important thing in the sand is to change down and keep a steady pace. If you hit a sand dune, never brake. Either brake before it or after you've driven through it.
Keher Singh's truck suddenly refused to go on. It simply stopped. Keher Singh put his foot down on emptiness. The deflecting lever for the throttle control cable has broken. He doesn't have the spare part he needs. It's time to improvise. Narendra noticed that Keher Singh was no longer following him and has returned to find out what's going on. The drivers would never leave each other in the lurch. They know what it means to get stuck out in the middle of nowhere. Narendra does what he can. He has a knack for fiddly jobs. Keher Singh and his assistants have already tried everything they can to fix the lever. With Narendra's help and a tiny metal pin, they finally managed to solve the problem. They can continue their journey.
I wouldn't like to get stuck for more than a week or 10 days. You can't simply leave your truck behind, you see. There are goods in the back, and it's my responsibility that nothing gets damaged or stolen. There are thieves out here who steal everything if you get stranded. You never know. Without Narendra, I'd have been in trouble now.
The men on their motorbikes have just one motto: the road is the destination. The bikers from Mumbai seek adventure and the boundless freedom of the open road. Many don't realize until they're here just how dangerous a trip on unpaved roads is. To the bikers, the Tanglang La is literally the high point of their journey.
You're the best pillion around, man. You're the best pillion around.
The pass lies at 5,325 meters.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, man.
Hey, go on, bhai sahab.
To Tanglang, la 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 la.
A quick souvenir snap and a cup of tea. One doesn't last long in the thin air. A headache and shortness of breath can set in suddenly. The bikers acknowledge the dangers of altitude sickness, but these friends are out for a challenge.
The passes, basically, there are no roads on the passes, and then it's like basically stones, stream of water flowing, and then there are like
huge trucks coming across, army convoy, you have to handle all these things. It's very scary, very, very scary. The most scariest moment till now, I guess. And I can't stop the bike on a slope, and the bike had a skidded, and I fell off. And I had a slight hairline injury on my hand, and now I can't ride, but I'm not going back on a flight or something. I want to be on the pillion so that I can enjoy the place at least.
Narendra and Kehar Singh have almost reached the highest pass too. The climb is hard on their trucks. It's an uphill stretch of many kilometers. Narendra is worried about whether his patched-up puncture and Kehar Singh's throttle control lever will hold out. The drivers have not yet allowed themselves a break today, as time is short due to the repairs that needed to be done. Finally, they reach Tanglang. 2/3 of the journey is now behind them.
Look at the tires.
Looking good.
Yeah.
Did the engine heat up?
Yes, it got very hot indeed.
Come on, let's pray.
Narendra is a religious man. Being a Buddhist, he has learnt to be relaxed, to take things as they come. The following morning, the drivers have to navigate along the edge of a deep gorge. Narendra doesn't like to drive this stretch unless he's had a good night's sleep. He really needs to concentrate. Each section of the Manali-Leh Highway has its own perils. There's never a moment to relax.
Driving in the mountains requires a completely different technique from driving in ordinary terrain. You have to really be on the ball. The slightest error and you disappear into a ravine. Your truck could be a total loss. You have to be careful all the time because the road is so bad. There are huge holes in it.
Narendra has been driving along this Himalayan road for 15 years. He has overcome his fear, but he still has much respect for it.
When I drove along this road for the first time, I was terribly afraid. I knew the road, but I was so frightened I couldn't eat. I was constantly worried about the altitude. How would my truck get across the passes? Then, close to Leh, I got very excited and was happy. It was as if I'd arrived in heaven. That's what it was like.
In some places, the road has been blasted out of the rock. There are no nets to catch falling rocks and no crash barriers to stop a truck plunging into the depths. A truck has come off the road. The men are trying to pull the truck out of the water and save whatever can be saved. The crew have already been rescued and taken to hospital. They were lucky. They survived. Soldiers pulled the truck out of the water. Only the army has equipment for a job like this. The owners lose at least one truck on this road each year. They can afford to because they own a whole fleet of trucks.
One should keep away from this road and not do business here. It's not worth it. There's too much competition and there are too many thieves in this trade. The money isn't good and there are few contracts.
Sometimes the losses are huge. When this truck went off the road, it was carrying 12,000 litres of petrol. It's all gone. The battery has been stolen, the tools, almost everything. It really is a huge loss.
Sonam Pangri is making packet soup and brewing tea. She's from Leh. During the summer months, she earns a living running a roadside cafe on the Manali-Leh Highway. She also provides mattresses for people to sleep on. The bikers from Mumbai spent the night here. It was cold and their journey had taken its toll. They all work in the IT sector and they're not used to the raw climate, the altitude or the bad roads. To them, the Kashmir region is unknown territory.
Where do you get all this stuff?
From Leh, mostly. Sometimes from Manali. Life here at this altitude can be difficult. Sometimes the tent is blown away by the wind. Sometimes the rain destroys it completely. It's hard.
The women are proud of their small business. They offer some creature comforts in the otherwise harsh natural environment.
I owe a lot to this road. I'm independent. I can pay for my children's education. Everyone comes here, high-ranking officers, priests and poor people too, whom I feed for free. Some people are very nice to me. The other day there were 10 people here without any money at all. Their bus had broken down. I had to give them tea and cake for nothing. That's how this road is. All the shopkeepers here owe their existence to it. The day the road opens, I'm happy. The day it closes, I'm sad.
Vehicles edge their way through the fog. It's become hard to tell the road from the abyss. Narendra directs the traffic. Nobody else feels responsible. To prevent traffic coming to a standstill, he directs the buses, trucks and cars coming downhill past his own truck. A narrow section a few hundred meters further along offers room for one-way traffic only. Narendra and Ramesh have learned from experience that it makes more sense sometimes to wait a while in order to make better progress later on. Since there are no crash barriers, Ramesh takes up position by the roadside. He acts as a human marker to show oncoming traffic where the edge of the road is. The drivers are on the road for weeks, sometimes months on end. It's difficult for their families. But during the trips on the Manali-Leh Highway, Narendra misses his family even more than usual.
I miss my wife. I miss my family, my parents, my children. I really miss them a lot. I'm in foreign territory. I'm on the road and I've left my family behind. This is very risky work, and nobody knows whether I'll make it back. There are accidents and many difficulties to overcome.
The two trucks are getting close to their destination. They've almost made it. The capital of Ladakh province lies at an altitude of more than 3,500 meters. People from neighboring villages come to Leh in order to trade their wares. And for hundreds of years, the town was a center of Tibetan Buddhism. Narendra has to take care that his truck doesn't tear down the prayer flags spanning the road. In town, Narendra and Keher Singh go their separate ways. They have different clients. Narendra's client is eager to find out whether his goods have arrived safely. The drivers are responsible for them until they're unloaded. Despite the breakdowns and traffic jams, the truck arrives with only a couple of hours delay.
I'll be very happy when the truck has been unloaded. I'll quickly drive home then to Delhi, where I'll load up again before coming back here. That's the drill. When the truck is unloaded, I take care of the loading. When it's loaded, I take care of the unloading. It's the life of a truck driver. Up and down, up and down.
When his work is done, Narendra calls his wife at home. She needs to know that he's arrived safely.
I've unloaded the truck, and I'll be on my way back tomorrow. How's the weather?
The bikers have made it to Leh too, almost without a hitch. They'll now rest for a few days before embarking on the return journey. Early the next morning, Narendra is on the road again, heading back from Leh to Manali.
Lohtang.
The Sichuan-Tibet Highway is the most important traffic route from China to the Himalayas. 2,200 kilometers across steep passes and deep valleys up to the roof of the world. The journey leads through remote villages and fascinating landscapes, but unforeseen dangers lure at every corner. At 5,000 meters altitude, the infinity of the sky seems as close as never before. At the end of the road of longing for truck drivers, travelers, and pilgrims. The Sichuan-Tibet Highway leads from Chengdu in the Sichuan province, situated in the southeast of China. It crosses the Himalayas to Tibet's capital city, Lhasa. Ren Taiping and his colleague Shun are checking the wheels and brakes of their truck. They have to bring cement to a place near the Tibetan border, about 800 kilometers away. They calculated 3 days for their trip. They take turns driving at frequent intervals because the ascent up the Himalayas takes full concentration.
The road section between Tuanyuan and the Erlang Mountains is very difficult to drive because of the many roadworks. Landslides cause road accidents time and time again. The road conditions are a disaster, especially in heavy rain.
Through steep valleys, the road ascends higher and higher. Because there was a lot of rain, whole mountain slopes start moving. The road needs repairing all the time. Again and again, vehicles crash and fall into the deep canyons.
Nearly all drivers we meet are Tibetans. They're bad drivers. If we encounter them on the road, it's better to let them pass. Only yesterday, further down the road, the stubborn behavior of two drivers caused deaths.
The ascent to the first pass is especially dangerous, since it's hardly paved at all. Ren Taiping prefers to let his more experienced colleague Shun do the driving. The road winds itself ever higher through a subtropical mountain jungle. The clouds floating from the Pacific Ocean to the Himalayas cause heavy rains here.
Traffic is bad here because of only single-lane traffic on account of the roadworks. Look, the whole street leading up here is only one single traffic jam. You have to be very careful.
Shortly before the pass, once again a landslide blocks the road. Everyone has to be prepared for many hours of waiting time. The first stage of the Sichuan-Tibet Highway leads from Sichuan's capital city Chengdu across the foothills of the Himalayas to Kangding. The first ascent to the Erlang mountain is one of the most dangerous stages of the whole route. A farmer woman is logging bamboo in the underbrush above the street. Gao Kaisi does not even let heavy rain keep her from working.
What do we use the bamboo for? We use it to build a protective cover. Our old temple is being demolished. Now our Buddha needs a new provisional roof.
Gao Kaisi and some of the farmers from the close-by village want to finish building the makeshift temple on the slope above the highly frequented road. It's supposed to safeguard not only the villagers, but also passing travelers against accidents. People here are used to working in the rain. The sun hardly ever shines in this foggy region.
This is Buddha Guanyin, and here we have the patron of the street. Over there is General Bai, and this is Bai Ma with his white horse.
To ask for protection from up above is very common in this area, maybe because there are dangers everywhere. Just a few years ago, tens of thousands of people died at a disastrous earthquake which devastated this area in Sichuan.
Soon we will build a new temple. Now is the peak harvest time for the rice, so we have no time at all. We'll only have time to build the permanent temple after everything has been harvested.
The temple is inaugurated with small fireworks. Beware of falling rocks, it says a few kilometers further on. The rain has destabilized the slope. The climbers are trying to loosen branches and debris to prevent the worst. Sometimes the road patrol manages to alleviate dangerous sights, but most of the time they arrive too late. Shu Wengxing is one of the thousands of cyclists who try to surmount the passes of the Sichuan-Tibet Highway between spring and fall.
I feel free when I'm on the road. I can cycle fast or slow, whichever I want. I meet people on the way and make friends. We cyclists are like-minded. Everyone is on vacation. I'm so happy.
We're cycling to Lhasa. It'll take us 3 to 4 weeks to get there. In between, we'll rest for 2 or 3 days.
Through rain and fog, even in snow and ice, the cyclists struggle for days across 4,000 to 5,000 meter high passes to reach their destination, Lhasa. Because of the enormous differences in altitude, the endlessly long passages and the many dangers, the Sichuan-Tibet Highway is a sort of baptism of fire for many members of the new Chinese middle class. Ren Taiping and his colleague have left the traffic jam behind. Finally, they can move on.
If a car breaks down and blocks the road, the traffic jam lasts for at least half a day.
Dangerous situations occur very often. One has to be very careful, but most drivers are aware of the dangers.
Not only landslides, falling rocks, or unpaved roads are challenging. The greatest danger arises from drivers who risk too much. A poultry truck has fallen over. Hundreds of chickens have died.
A car approached me on my lane. I came from below and had to yield quickly.
The driver's wife is trying to save what can be saved. It has taken the family a whole year to rear the chickens. Now the family's existence is at stake. The route leads ever higher up in the Himalayas. Behind the first 4,000-meter pass, Ren Taiping and his colleagues suffer damage too. The driver's door is damaged, but they are not even halfway there.
My colleague, Mr. Xun, stopped to replenish the water when a truck came towards us. We shouted and waved at him to make him stop, but he didn't see us in time and crashed into the open door. That's how it got broken.
Ren Taiping suspects this unnecessary accident will cost him at least half a day, because normally it takes the police a few hours to arrive at the scene. The other driver does not accept the blame, so the police will have to file a report. Further down in the valley, the cyclists stop off at a hostel before darkness sets in. Zhu Wengxing has also completed his daily leg. The increasing bicycle tourism is a welcome line of business for the villagers. A one-night stay costs €5 per person. That's affordable, even by Chinese standards. The cyclists arrive from all across China. The highway on top of the world is en vogue. But whoever cycles here must be prepared for all kinds of weather.
The road was bumpy and full of potholes and totally wet. Yes, I got wet too. It's very slippery, especially downhill. The overtaking cars splash dirt in my face. That's a real problem. If a truck approaches you, you have to stop. Otherwise, no one can pass. I must be careful because the truck would hardly notice if it ran over me.
It's still raining the next morning. The villagers don't seem to mind. Here at 2,000 meters above sea level, the people are used to this moist and damp weather. Things at the hostel are starting to stir too. Shortly before 10 a.m., later than usual, Zhu Wengxing sets off on his trip again. Ren Taiping and his colleague are back on the road as well. They waited 5 hours for the police to arrive. They flattened the driver's door and tied it to the truck as best as they could. The Sichuan-Tibet Highway winds itself ever higher. The next pass is 4,500 meters high. The truckers stay on the inner lane as much as they can because of the broken door and the dust. Up here, the air is noticeably thinner, and it has become colder. The temperatures now lie at barely above 0 degrees.
It is so tough to drive, and the next passage will be uncomfortable too. We try to stay close to the mountain with our broken door, which means that sometimes we're driving on the wrong side of the road. This can be dangerous, especially if big vehicles are approaching.
From the city of Kangding, the road leads across various passes to Lohtang near the Tibetan border. Close by the road at nearly 5,000 meters, the Tibetan monastery Gaoe Shan. About 2,000 meters further down, the climate becomes mild again. This is the Tibetan part of Sichuan, easily recognizable by the splendid Tibetan houses. The family Sang belongs to the Kampa people. They are building a new house for their son. The old one stood too close to the road and was demolished. Luo Sang is 24 years old. The house is supposed to be ready when he gets married.
When they expanded the Sichuan-Tibet Highway a little while ago, our house was affected as well. Even though we weren't happy with the compensation payment, we're now building a new house a bit further away from the street now. Everybody working here is related to me. We ourselves dug up the stones and the clay and brought it here from far away.
It will take 3 months to build the house. Life for the Kampa people has its own rhythm, but the highway is a foreboding of changing times. Every day, new faces appear. Who are these strangers that struggle to climb up here? What do they want here, the locals ask themselves. It won't take long before the Chinese bustle will change life up here too. Zhang Yong drinks up his energy drink before hitting the road again. He's actually always in a hurry. He is expected to pick up tourists from Lhasa for a tour across the Himalayas. He aims to arrive within 5 days, but Lhasa is not only 1,700 kilometers away. He also has to overcome a total of 25,000 meters in altitude, downhill and uphill. Zhang Yong always drives as fast as the road allows, sometimes even faster. He is 25 years young, quick to react, and ambitious. The tour is not only a job for him, but also a challenge.
Driving uphill, it's sometimes really difficult to overtake the others. For example, if there's a traffic jam, overtaking can get very dangerous. That means I won't be able to meet my schedule. There are days when I only manage to drive 200 kilometers because of all the time I'm losing.
Zhang Yong just barely missed getting involved in this crash.
The brakes failed. Didn't work anymore. I went downhill and the truck went faster and faster. I had to steer into the ditch or else we would have come off the road.
The driver realizes immediately the truck is only good enough for its spare parts. Maybe the engine and the gearbox still work, but the whole right-hand side is a pile of junk. At least the load, containing construction material, isn't damaged. He wants to be able to give a detailed account of the damage when he calls his boss. After the first shock, the driver reacts surprisingly relaxed and cool.
The danger is always greatest going downhill, when the brakes are strained. I was petrified when I hit the brakes and absolutely nothing happened.
To the left, there were a couple of small cars approaching. He would have definitely run into them if he hadn't driven into the mountain. There would have been casualties. He would have pushed the two little cars down the slope, and then there would have been another traffic jam. He made the right decision.
Ren Taiping and his colleague have now been on the road for 3 days. They want to arrive at their destination Lohtang tomorrow morning. Another problem arises.
That doesn't sound good. I had a funny feeling right at the beginning of our trip. I'll check the cooling system of the brakes.
Is the brake cooling blocked?
The valve is shut. The cooling is blocked.
That's not good. The cooling shouldn't be blocked. It's very dangerous if the cooling system for the brakes fails and you're going downhill. And the brakes will fail and you have a real big problem. You either drive against the buffer walls, into the ditch, or you go down the slope. Or you cause a bad accident. Something that frequently happens here.
At 4,000 meters altitude, right next to the road, a Tibetan family of nomads are tending their flock of yaks. Zulma, her husband and the two sons live off the milk, the furs, and the meat of the animals. They own 70 yaks. Zu's eldest son, Dawa, is 13 years old. It took him ages to accustom his favorite yak to be ridden. Now he is proud that the animal lets him sit on its back.
I tend to the yaks and call them if they stroll off too far. After milking them, I bring them to the pasture and bring them back in the afternoon.
Dawa wants to become a cowboy, own a horse, and ride through the prairie. Soon the family will leave the summer pasture and move on to the village below.
Our village has a school, but I don't go there anymore. I left 2 or 3 years ago. Yes, I miss school.
Because the first snow has already fallen, his dad has borrowed a truck to transport the tents and yaks down to the village. Tomorrow they will start moving, but today the yaks are allowed to graze one last time.
I don't have much to say. Just tell them what you do every day. I herd yaks every day.
Zulma has milked about 30 liters of milk today. It's their most important income. In order to produce yak butter, she heats up the milk a little bit. She sells the butter to a salesman who comes around every day, 5 kilos each day. They live off it.
Without this machine, we wouldn't have butter. The whey comes in here and the butter over there.
The fact that their pastures lie directly at the road makes life simpler for the family. It's easier to sell the butter, and the transport of the tents and the herd the next day will take place much faster. Shortly before the next pass, a car from Shanghai has broken down on the mountain road. Xu Ting has a problem with her clutch.
I can't do this when people are watching me.
Xu Ting still needs practice starting the car at the foot of a hill. It's her first time in the mountains. She came to conquer the Himalayas all on her own, all the way from Shanghai.
I just want to drive to Tibet. I've been wanting to go there for 3 years now, but there were too many things that kept me from doing so. Now the time has come. I've done some research and had been preparing for this trip for the past 3 years. I want to see Tibet with my own eyes, and it should be possible even with such a small car.
Xuting has already driven 2,500 kilometers, 500 in the mountains. Because her car is lightweight and has a lot of chassis clearance, she masters even difficult passages. Sometimes impatient fellow drivers give Xuting a harder time than the road conditions.
Go back. Why do you keep going ahead? You're blocking the road.
Can't the truck get past?
Whenever the drivers encounter traffic jams at roadworks, they get nervous. Ren Taiping and his colleague have almost reached their destination. Between them and Lohtang remains only a last ascent. They arrive a day too late because of the accident and the many traffic jams. Still, they are in a good mood because up here, the road is free of potholes.
There used to be lots of thieves here. I never used to dare driving here at night. And in the old days, it was impossible to make rapid progress. You used to have to drive much more carefully than today.
Ren Taiping particularly enjoys this part of the journey, especially if the sun is shining. The lofty beauty of the landscape at 4,500 meters altitude gives him a feeling of freedom. They arrive at Lohtang in the afternoon. It's one of the highest cities of the world, situated at 4,000 meters altitude on a high plateau. One of the most famous Tibetan Buddhist monasteries is in Lohtang. Ren Taiping and his colleague have now delivered the cement. Not only construction material, but also most of the food for the inhabitants of Lohtang comes from the lowlands. They have mastered this adventurous trip once again. They won't rest for long at this restaurant. Already in the afternoon, they'll be heading back home. The monastery of Lohtang was built in the 16th century. The 3rd and 10th Dalai were educated here. Even today, the monastery is one of the most important schools of Tibetan Buddhism. More than 1,000 monks live behind these ancient walls. The 10-meter-high statue of Buddha on the inside is famous as well. Splendid ornaments bear witness to the ingenuity of Tibetan artisanship. Zhang Yong has been on the road for 3 days now. He is happy about the improvement of the road conditions up here in the mountains. The Sichuan-Tibet Highway runs from Lohtang at the Tibetan border across eastern Tibet all the way to Lhasa. At the Tibetan border, Zangyong crosses the legendary Yangtze River, which enters the Pacific Ocean near Shanghai. A bit further west, the road follows the valley of the river Mekong, which sometimes carves 2 kilometers deep into the mountains. Finally, it reaches the 72 turns, which lead down to the river Saluen.
It's not easy driving down these serpentines. The bends are extremely narrow. If you drive too fast, the car might roll over. And you always have to keep an eye on the approaching traffic in the curves. If a big truck shows up, you have to wait in front of the curve. That's the only way to pass. This is a good car, but you shouldn't drive it too fast. An SUV is big and high, but that means it can easily overturn.
In spite of its high center of gravity, Zangyong pushes the vehicle to its limits. Next to the road, 3 young Tibetans are sorting pieces of aluminum. They are a kind of vanguard of civilization. Hu Kai is in charge of the brigade. He has invested all his money in 5 mules in order to be able to offer his services to the electricity board. He wants to help put up power poles until he has made enough money to fulfill his dream of buying his own car. One day, he wants to be a taxi driver.
At the moment, we don't have any power supply lines. There's no electricity. Depending on the whereabouts, it'll take up different amounts of time. In this sector, it'll take another month.
Hu Kai is only responsible for this area next to the road. Higher up, there is another brigade putting up the power poles to also supply this Tibetan region with electricity.
The stronger mules can carry 400 to 450 kilos. This one here only 250. We have to be careful. If the parts fall on the mule's legs, we have a big problem.
Highly focused, Zangyong heads west. He enjoys being able to drive as fast as he wants to in this remote area. These bikers are also heading towards Lhasa. They are from the Guangdong province and have been on the road for 26 days already and driven 4,000 kilometers. Huang Xingtao has come up with the plan.
I'm 66 years old. He's 62 and this gentleman here is 61. We're all retired. I'd already planned to drive to Tibet on a motorcycle for 8 years, but it never happened. I did go to Lhasa with a group of tourists, but to find people to go there on a motorbike tour isn't easy at all. But now, finally, my dream comes true.
Lhasa holds a mysterious attraction for many people. Some are searching for freedom and adventure on their trip across the mountains, while others have religious and spiritual reasons to explore the heart of Tibet. For For these Tibetan travelers, the Sichuan-Tibet Highway is a pilgrim trail.
We're going to Lhasa, to the prayer mills. We've been traveling for a month now. We carry all we need, our food too. Tsampa.
They eat pure barley flour without additives, their only sustenance for many weeks. The pilgrim trail leads them on, uphill and downhill through ice and snow. Only those prepared to suffer hardships will endure. For the professional driver Zhang Yong, the Sichuan-Tibet Highway is just part of his job. He doesn't care much for the discovery of slowness. The earlier he arrives, the more content he is. But shortly before reaching Lhasa, he encounters a traffic jam for the first time in days.
There are various hazards on the trip. Landslides, deep snow in the high mountains, slippery and icy streets. It may be difficult for someone who never drove here before. For me, it's no problem to drive down this road. I know it well.
Zhang Yong has reached his destination, Lhasa. The pilgrims also arrive after their long journey at the Potala Palace, the Dalai Lama's residence for centuries. They believe that by spinning the prayer mills, they can remove the harm of all living creatures and dissolve bad karma. Now, at the end of the Sichuan-Tibet Highway, everyone has fulfilled their goal.
The skyline of Dhaka, the capital of Bangladesh. More than 12 million people live in this fast-growing metropolis, and thousands more arrive every day. The streets of Dhaka have long become like the eye of a needle. There are not enough streets for the increasing number of people and vehicles. Worse than the foul air is the noise on the street. Even if traffic is at a complete standstill, horns are always honking. Bangladesh lies to the east of India, Its northern border is formed by the Himalayas. The center of this congestion-plagued city are the streets around the bus station of Gulistan. Rickshaws still dominate the streets of the city. 25-year-old Badshad Mia has been transporting goods by rickshaw for over 7 years now. Today, Badshad has to take TV sets and accessories to a shop in the old town for a logistics company. If he loads up his rickshaw to the top, he gets the equivalent of 70 cents per kilometre. He can manage 2 or 3 such trips a day. It depends on how bad the congestion is and if he can get through without problems.
I might have to bribe the traffic police, but this is already included in the price.
Every day, thousands of young people like Badshad arrive in the capital. They dream of wealth and fast money. Most of them end up on the streets of Dhaka. The job of rickshaw driver is a good opportunity to earn money.
My home village is called Sherpur. There are no jobs there, so I came to Dhaka. Life and work here are hard. There are a lot of traffic jams in Dhaka. Driving is dangerous and rickshaws are banned on the larger main streets, but I'll manage. There are many spots where the traffic police stop us. Sometimes they beat us, but if you give them 10 cents, then they let you drive on. It's going uphill up there. You have to get off and help me push. Now we're taking a left turn.
In the streets of Dhaka, things can easily get lost, so the logistics company sends its helpers along. They watch the goods and show Badshad the way through the maze of streets. Accidents and broken vehicles are part of the scenery. They are often the aftermath of a bit of jostling or inconsiderate drivers. The age and poor condition of the vehicles make any transport a high-risk journey. This old lorry was hopelessly overloaded. 18 tons of steel rods instead of the legal limit of 5 caused it to break down in the middle of the junction.
It's terrible. We're running late. We've got more expenses and won't be getting our wages. We have to pay for everything out of our own pocket. It's going to cost us dearly.
This time, no one got hurt, but accidents like this are typical for the streets of Dhaka. A 35-year-old rickshaw driver Muhammad Azim was swept into the streets of Dhaka more than 20 years ago. Every day, he drives passengers through the city to earn a few euros. Azim has a wife and 2 children to feed. He knows the streets and its dangers, and knows exactly what to look out for.
Actually, all other vehicles are dangerous for me, but I have to pay particular attention to buses, lorries and ordinary cars. The accident happened when a van hit me from behind and hurled me curbside. I lost consciousness immediately. It took me 3 months to be able to get back onto the rickshaw.
There are too many rickshaw drivers in Dhaka. Any newcomer can do this job. For Azim, this means ever longer waiting times, and prices are competitive.
Rickshaw, how much do you want?
20 cents.
15.
No.
The other rickshaws ask for less.
I take 20. Go to the others.
No, I don't have time. Let's go.
Driving on the street is not only dangerous, it's also exhausting. Azim can't manage more than 3 or 4 hours per day. Sometimes he also has to wait for over 10 hours. At the end of the day, he is often left with just a few euros. He will send most of this money to his wife and children who live in the countryside.
When I sleep or walk, my joints often ache. I can't say how much longer I will be able to do this, how much longer my body can take the strain, but I have to feed and raise my children somehow.
After 1 hour stuck in traffic, Budget has covered the short distance to the old town. Together with the logistics company's helpers, he delivers the goods. Particularly in the hot tropical summer, a taxi with air conditioning is the only chance to escape the overheated streets for a short while. Mohammed Amanullah's taxi is a luxury only rich people can afford. Mohammed has been steering his yellow cab through the big city jungle of Dhaka for 7 years now.
The worst thing is the ever-present traffic jams. They cause lots of problems. Sometimes I need 2 hours for a short distance you would normally need 20 minutes for. This way I have fewer customers and make hardly any money. My job's not really worth its while anymore.
It's usually richer clients, business people or foreigners who need to get to the airport who treat themselves to a taxi. Englishman David Giddings often travels to Bangladesh for business and has managed to pick up a few words of the local language. However, David has not managed to get used to the traffic in Dhaka.
I mean, I drive in Rome. I've driven in Naples for 30 years. I live in Italy. I've been there for 30 years. But I would never drive in Dhaka. Never. I wouldn't risk it. First, because people are not insured, which is very important. My friend's brother is now mad. He was hit. Now he's completely crazy, brain damaged, and they just run away. If you have an accident, they never stop because the people would lynch them, kill them. I mean, walking across the road is a problem. The crossings are very few, and the people take no notice. They take no notice of the police. Traffic lights are just a waste of money. You hop across the road, you try to stop the cars with your hand. They don't easily let you go. And they get out in the middle of the traffic and check the something like this. It's very informal. I mean, I mean, I don't think they have a highway code, or if they do, I don't think anybody's ever read it. I don't think the police have read it because they don't stop people.
Occasionally, the government tries to lay down the law. They just issued a new highway code.
Please read this and take note of the new rules.
Are those the new laws?
Yes.
I got something similar the other day.
Okay.
The government wants to enforce drivers keeping to their individual lanes.
Actually, it's a problem for all of us. Bus and taxi drivers are doing it wrong. But the worst offenders are the rickshaw drivers. They haven't got a clue about the highway code. I never know where they go next. They don't even have an indicator. It's terrible. They do whatever they want. It's true that we often go too fast, but we're not the only ones. Our customers want to reach their destination quickly. So we simply step on it.
There are policemen at almost all the major junctions, regulating the flow of traffic. Without them, traffic would come to a complete standstill. People respect the officers more than the traffic signs, but even they can't really control the chaos.
Everyone wants to go first. If we don't put a stop to this behaviour, nothing will ever change. Everyone simply drives onto the junction, jackknives and obstructs the rest of the traffic. No one gives in. Everyone thinks only of themselves and how to get away the quickest.
It's rush hour. Not even the rickshaws can get through now. Slowly, the mood is reaching boiling point. In the old town, the next transport is waiting for Bachet. At a wholesaler's, he loads building materials, which he has to take to a building site. At least there are no dangerous buses or lorries in old Dhaka.
It's hard work, but I don't have an alternative. I once fell off my bicycle and broke my leg. When I transport pipes like those, it's very dangerous. The streets are narrow, and I have to make sure I don't get caught anywhere.
Bachet never finished school. Instead, he went to work in order to support his family in the countryside. Because Bachet started to work, his brother was able to study.
If we were both studying, we wouldn't have enough money, and in the end, we'd both fail.
Bachet's situation is typical for the life of the poor in Bangladesh. Often, there is only enough money to pay for the education of one family member. Bachet's family expects him to make this sacrifice, but it's a high-risk plan.
If I ever cause an accident, it would be a disaster. If it's my fault and the driver is injured and his car damaged, I'd need money for the repairs and medical costs. Something like that would cause great hardship for the family.
Rickshaw driver Azim is on his way to the hospital with a customer. Mohammed Zaved wants to visit his nephew who has had a traffic accident. Every day, up to 200 victims of traffic accidents end up in the community hospital. Broken bones, cranial traumas, but also more severe internal injuries are treated here. The hospital barely manages to treat the many injured people. Lots of patients camp out in the hallways and only receive minimal treatment. Zaved's nephew was involved in a serious accident with a taxi. He's been waiting for weeks for his second operation.
Today, on my way from the village, I saw another accident. It involved 3 cars. 2 people were dead on the spot. Our streets are horrible death traps.
আচ্ছা আপনার তো অপারেশন হয়ে গেছে না কদিন আগে অপারেশন হলো দেখি আস্তে আস্তে হাঁটুটা ভাঁজ করেন
There are not enough doctors and not enough nurses.
আপনার নাম কি
Operations take place only once a week.
আপনার কবে অ্যাক্সিডেন্ট
Anyone who can afford it books personal treatment with the chief physician.
and the fracture in the mid shaft of the humerus and this fracture has already caused nerve damage.
Following the rounds, the hospital settles into its everyday routine. As there are not enough nurses, most people have to have their relatives look after and care for them. This is Gulistan bus station on the outskirts of the old town. All those who arrive in the capital full of great expectations end up here in the heart of Dhaka. Buses arrive from all over the country or leave from here. Arched has come here to meet his uncle. He wants to take the afternoon bus to Sherpur, his family's home village.
Do you know where the bus to Sherpur leaves from?
No idea.
The bus to Sherpur, does it leave from here?
Sherpur, dunno.
Like many rickshaw drivers, Pacha doesn't have a bank account. He could only hand over money personally or give it to a family member. Everything else would be too unreliable.
Uncle, how long have you been here?
I just got here. How are you?
Good. Take the money and give it to my mother at home. Tell my brother to be a good boy and study.
For many people in Bangladesh, buses are the only means of transport they can afford. You pay just 1.5 cents per kilometre. On the other hand, the passengers have to do with no comfort whatsoever. The large coaches are the true kings of the streets of Dhaka. Mohammed Razak is 32 and has been driving a bus for more than 10 years. He doesn't mind the tightly packed space.
Why is the woman still standing? She needs to sit down. I start the day in the name of Allah, but nobody is perfect. Sometimes I drive badly. Even though I know the gap is not big enough, I take it anyway. I have to admit we're to blame for some of the accidents.
Mohammed's 22-year-old helper, Kausar Rahman, works on the bus for up to 16 hours straight. His job is to get the passengers on board, to call out the bus's destination, and to guide the driver safely.
On the one hand, I like the work, but I also don't like it. Unfortunately, people don't respect us. Even the rickshaw drivers come up to me and beat me. Some passengers get aggressive when they're asked to pay. They even break the windows or set fire to the bus. We're full. No, we're full. Keep going. They don't listen. They want to get on anyway.
Transport is a scarce commodity. If you're not assertive, you don't get anywhere. Bus driver Razak has to do more than avoid accidents. He also has to make sure that there is cash in the till at the end of the day.
Bus number 6 is on the road from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. At lunchtime, I take a break, and the rest of my life I spend stuck in traffic. We always have to drive as much as we can. Rent for the bus is 40 euros per day. We have to buy petrol on top of that. If we actually want to earn some money, we really have to step on it.
Tensions are running high on the streets. It takes only a tiny spark for the powder keg to explode.
Fear is a constant passenger for us. If there's an accident, most of us will take off. There is a huge danger that the passengers, that is to say the simple people, will beat us to death. So we'd rather do a runner.
A little aside from congestion and traffic chaos, there are the rickshaw stations. They tend to belong to the people who rent out the bikes. The vehicles are parked downstairs, the drivers sleep upstairs. Apart from Azim, some 100 drivers can stay here.
I would rather work in my village with my family. I'm actually a farmer by trade, but I don't have my own farm and no money. So I have no choice but to keep driving a rickshaw.
Sleeping, personal hygiene, eating or repairing the rickshaw. Those are the everyday activities at the station. The better it is run, the longer the drivers tend to stay here. Some even live here with their families. Others don't actually drive. They are busy maintaining the bikes. The rickshaws are old, and the ramshackle streets of Dhaka take their toll. Some of the rickshaw drivers' wives earn some extra money by cooking for the men. 3 meals a day cost the equivalent of 70 cents. Usually rice with vegetables and some fish is on the menu. No one has to go hungry, but there is no such thing as a fat rickshaw driver. The food is just about enough to keep up their strength. In the afternoon, Azim sets off once more. When the office is closed, business goes well. But this is also the time when traffic often comes to a complete standstill. Driver Banchet has been given a big job. In addition to the normal obstacles like chaos and lack of discipline, you have to contend with the dismal state of the streets. Everywhere there are roadworks which are usually not cordoned off or marked as such. It's assumed that the road users will notice the hole in the street in good time. The men work with simple tools, as wages are so low it's cheaper than using a digger. Here, supply pipes need to be laid. Mohammed Abdul is the boss. It's been his job for over 20 years now to keep patching up the streets of Dhaka.
Everyone who passes by here curses us. The traffic jam is our fault. No one likes us. But you need to see that the street is very dangerous for us too. If a car comes and falls into the ditch, we're all dead. We need to be careful. But we also have our work to do, of course.
Bajed has delivered his load. It's time for a break and a cup of tea at his station. Tea is only a few cents.
I just arrived here from Gulistan. What a traffic jam.
Were the traffic police after you?
No, but one of them tried. Luckily, he didn't catch me.
When talking to a colleague, Bajed quickly gets to the favourite subjects of all rickshaw drivers: the street, the traffic jam, and the police assaults.
You better be off. Pack your stuff and have the police beat you up.
You want me to get beaten up?
Once they beat you up, you give them 10 cents. That's how much this is.
So I'm to pay for getting beaten up?
Yeah, but afterwards.
Meanwhile, Azim has arrived on the outskirts of the city. He's taking a lorry driver to his station. His shift only starts after dark. During the day, lorries are banned on Dhaka streets. Mohammed Amjad Hossain mainly carries bricks to the building sites of the city. The brickyards are outside the city gates. The stones are taken to the loading station on barges and unloaded by hand. Driver Amjad also employs helpers who accompany him on all trips.
When I was still driving during the day, there were many traffic jams. Sometimes I had to wait for hours. At night, it's not so bad, and it's not so hot either. It's not entirely safe at night. There are youth gangs. A colleague of mine was robbed recently. They took his cell phone and his money.
Once the lorry is loaded up, Amjad has to wait for nightfall. Only then can he make a start. But there is always stuff to do, or have a chat with colleagues. Dusk falls over the city. Finally, he can leave. The traffic in the city won't calm down in the coming hours. Slowly, Amjad and his lorry make their way to the city centre. Like every evening, there is an invasion of lorries. At night, they supply the city with everything it needs to stay alive. Now they have taken over the streets. Amjad has reached the building site and has his men unload the lorry.
There's no point if I'm the only one who sticks to the highway code. Everyone needs to observe it or it's pointless. Once an accident has happened, it's all too late anyway. You get beaten up or thrown in jail. If I think about that, I don't actually feel like driving anymore.
It's already past midnight. Even though Badshed is on his way to bed, the city never sleeps. The man who rents out the rickshaw to Bachet keeps his humble belongings in a cupboard for him. Late at night, the rickshaw drivers make their bed on their bikes. The streets of Dhaka have become Bachet's home, day and night.